Welcome back. In this video we're going to talk about aspect orbs. I'm going to go through the 5 major aspects. We're going to talk about their angles and we're going to talk about their orbs, and so you can determine whether or not an aspect is an orb or not in your chart. This video is part of my aspect series, and in this one we're going to be talking about aspect orbs. So let's get started. So let's have a look at aspect orbs. So the definition of an orb is how close 2 planets can be to the degree of the aspect to be considered an orb. So the degree of the aspect is the actual aspect degree, whether it's an opposition of 180 or a trine 120, and the orb shows how close 2 planets can be to be considered within this aspect. And here we're just going to be looking at the major aspects, and that is the conjunction, the opposition, the trine, the square, and the sextile, and there are your degrees for each of those aspects. We're going to go through those now one by one, just give you some examples of aspects within orbs. So for conjunctions, 2 planets within an 8-degree orb of each other. So because the conjunction degree is 0, so you want 2 planets that are going to be within 8 degrees of each other. And in our example, if this people in the circle, this woman here is likely to be in conjunction with this person here, because this circle of people represents your actual chart, and how close the 2 are together. These are representative of planets, and we would say if these 2 planets or these 2 people are within 8 degrees of each other, they will be an orb of a conjunction. So the chart we're just going to have a quick look through is Elon Musk. We don't have a birth time, but we do have a birth date. So this is the noon chart, what I've calculated here. So for a conjunction, we know the orb is 8 degrees. So we are looking for 2 planets that may be within 8 degrees of each other. And the example we're looking at here is Jupiter conjoined Neptune. So that's it there. You've got Jupiter at 2738 and Neptune at 048. So those are 2 planets that look close together, and we're going to now work out whether they are indeed less than 8 degrees apart. So the conjunction is orb 8, where Neptune is at 048 Sagittarius and Jupiter's at 2738 Scorpio. So you realize that Neptune is further along the zodiac than Jupiter, and the difference between those 2 degrees is 3 degrees and 10 minutes, and that is the difference between the positions of these 2 planets. So because 3 degrees and 10 minutes is less than 8 degrees, these 2 planets are indeed conjoined in his chart. Let's have another look at an example of a conjunction. Again, 2 planets within 8 degrees of each other. So if you have 2 planets that are close by but are not exactly in orb, you would say that they are not in orb. So they have to be within 8 degrees of each other. Let's have another look at this chart. So the question here is the Sun conjoined Mercury? Because we can see that in his chart the Sun is close to Mercury in the chart. So we're going to do a calculation to find out. So we know the conjunction is an orb of 8 degrees. Mercury is at 1427 Cancer. The Sun is at 604 Cancer. So we work out what is the difference, and the orb there is 8 degrees 23. That is how wide apart these 2 planets are. So we know that the orb for a conjunction is 8 degrees, and the Mercury-Sun connection is 8 degrees 23. So these 2 are not in orb, and therefore they are not conjoined each other, even though they look very close to each other in his chart. That's an example of an aspect that's not in orb. So it's over the 8 degrees. So the opposition is an angle of 180 degrees. So here you want 2 planets opposite, but within 8 degrees of 180 degrees, which is the opposition. So we're looking for 2 planets that are between 172 degrees and 188 degrees apart. So that's 8 degrees either side of the 180. So for instance, we would be looking at this woman here, and perhaps that woman right on the opposite side of the circle. The question is, are these 2 people in opposition? Are they within orb? So again, let's have a look at his chart. So the orb for an opposition is 8 degrees. So we're going to look at Saturn opposition Neptune. So there's Neptune and there is Saturn. And we can see that they are on opposite sides of the chart, but we're going to now count and see, are they actually in the opposition aspect? So Saturn is at 1 degrees 8 minutes Gemini, Neptune is at 0 degrees 48 Sagittarius. So the question is, what is the difference between these two planets from the exact opposition? And the orb there is 0 degrees 20 minutes. So they are actually in opposition, very tightly in opposition. Let's have a look at a trine. A trine is 120 degrees. Two planets trine within 8 degrees of 120 degrees. So you're looking for something between 112 and 128 degrees from the starting point. So in this case, we would say consider this woman here and perhaps this person over here, making 120 degrees around the circle. The question is, are they in trine? Again, going back to his chart, let's pick up a couple of planets that may be in trine. So our orb is 8 degrees. So let's say, is Venus trine Mars? There's Venus, there's Mars. So we have a closer look at their numbers. So Venus is at 19 degrees 37 Gemini. Mars is at 20 degrees 55 Aquarius. So we want to know what is the difference from the 120, and the orb there is 1 degree 18 minutes. That is the difference. That is the orb that there are. So yes, Venus is trine Mars. So let's have a look at the square. The square is a 90 degree. Two planets are square, but within 8 degrees of 90 degrees. So we're looking for two planets between 82 degrees and or 98 degrees. So for example, this guy here, is he square to this person over here? They're almost a quarter of the way around the circle. That's what we're looking for in the square. It's a 90 degree angle. Going back to his chart again, the square orb is 8 degrees. So our question is Mars square Jupiter? They look like they could be in square. So the square has an orb of 8 degrees. We are looking at Jupiter at 2738 Scorpio. We're looking at Mars at 20 degrees 55 Aquarius. What is the difference? The orb there is 6 degrees 42 minutes. So Mars is square Jupiter in his chart. Let's have a look at the sextile. The sextile is an aspect of 60 degrees. Two planets that are sextile but within 4 degrees of 60 degrees. So the orb for a sextile is 4 degrees. So we're looking for two planets between 56 degrees and 64 degrees. So perhaps this person here and perhaps that person there, that's the kind of angle we're looking at in a circle. Again, going back to Musk's chart, we can look at a couple of planets here. So our sextile has an orb of 4 degrees. Our question is the moon sextile Mercury? That would be a good idea to look at. So if the sextile orb is 4 degrees, the moon is at 1102 Virgo, Mercury is at 1427 Cancer. The difference between the two here is an orb of 3 degrees and 25 minutes to the 60. So therefore the moon is sextile Mercury. Okay, so there it is. We've gone through the 5 major aspects. We've had a look at Elon Musk's chart, and we've also considered whether two planets will be an aspect or not within his chart. I do have a fuller interpretation of his chart, and you can check it out on this link here if you're interested in looking at more in-depth look at his natal chart in general. I mean, why not? So these are the aspect orbs I use. I'd be interested to know if you do your orbs slightly differently to this. You can let me know in the comments. Please subscribe, like and share this video with anybody who would be interested. I'm Alison Price. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.